Well, hello friends and welcome to my channel. My name is EJ Marino and we have a new review today. Yes, on this channel I usually do Chucky or American Horror Story or other fun things like that, but we're talking about a true crime, basically a horror series. It is pretty terrifying and it comes from our favorite, Ryan Murphy. Yes, Ryan Murphy Productions has a new show called Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story, and we are going to be diving into it. I want to talk about how good I think this series is, why I think it's one of the best Ryan Murphy productions we've seen in quite some time, and why you should definitely be watching this. Even though it's a bit heavy, even though we've seen so much about Jeffrey Dahmer, this is still worth your time. Alright everyone, enough of this intro. Let's get into the review of Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story. What a title. Oh goodness, time for another Ryan Murphy production, though it's still not American Horror Story Season 11. Yes, while we wait for the newest series of AHS, we have a new show dropping on Netflix about Jeffrey Dahmer, starring Evan Peters. Yes, Evan Peters may not be returning to American Horror Story this season. He is making quite the splash with this Jeffrey Dahmer show. He is just, he's great. Like, he is such a figure, such a force in this series. We've seen plenty of Jeffrey Dahmers. I actually even like the movie My Friend Dahmer a couple years ago, where Ross Lynch from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and the sexy Ross Lynch vibes that you probably see on Twitter sometimes. Yeah, I like this story. We've seen it. There's been a lot of Jeffrey Dahmer portrayals, but Evan Peters added a lot to this. I really like that we spent multiple episodes with him, so we got to see him grow. We can only cram so much into movies, which was the problem with a Jeremy Renner movie, which was the problem with My Friend Dahmer. It's usually a problem with any of these true crime series. It's hard to really flesh out the character, so I'm glad that this spent some time fleshing out Jeffrey Dahmer, but he's not the spotlight of this series, as he shouldn't be. Like, we've seen enough of him. He's the monster. He took away enough time in life from these victims, so the victims are a big part of this series. The people around him, you know, we have the woman who helped get him kind of caught. She lived next door to him. We have the story about his parents. We have a lot of the people that Jeffrey affected as well. It's really interesting to see this was the route that they take. Yeah, it can get a bit exploitation, especially in the younger years stuff. You've seen it, you know it. It's like, oh, sad, gay boy, oh, but this show does not do that. It's not a very sympathetic series. I actually really like that. We'll talk about that in a bit when I kind of flesh out my full feelings. But yeah, I like that this show was just focusing on the victims. There is some time, those, like, you know, episodes 2 through, I would say, 4, definitely try to, you know, do Jeffrey's backstory, and the Jeffrey Dahmer backstory is, it's just the Jeffrey Dahmer backstory. We've kind of seen it. You kind of get it. I love, again, like, it's not a very sympathetic portrayal. They definitely make him seem pathetic as he was. He was a pathetic psycho murderer dude. And yeah, well, maybe they could find the backstory, but no, there was a lot involved in this. The complete negligence from the multiple police officers, not just the 2 that got in trouble for ignoring one of his most infamous cases, but overall, just the negligence that we did as a culture, as a society, up until his arrest in 91, and then they get even into the trial, what happened to him in jail. I liked it. Those last couple episodes is where the show really punched it in for me. It's where we really got a lot of the emotional core. We got the shock, the horror, and the oh my god stuff in the opening stuff, you know, the opening couple episodes, but by the time we got to the end, we really put it back to the victims and how tragic the story was that he took the lives of so many young men, specifically a lot of young gay brown and black boys. It's sad, it's sick that he did this, and there were so many things that went wrong with this case, and this show does such a good job with that. I'm overall very impressed with all 10 episodes. Again, not all of them are my favorite, especially the one about Lionel, his dad, where I was just like, oh my god, who cares about you, dude? I get it, you are another, in a sense, a victim of the Jeffrey Dahmer story, because you were so directly connected to it, but I just didn't care. Like, the actor was great. Richard Jenkins, fine. I adore him. Then we got some Miss Molly Ringwald as, like, the stepmom. I liked some of the stuff with the dad, but overall, it wasn't my favorite. The show really shined when Evan Peters was doing his goddamn amazing acting that he normally does, and when we were spotlighting like the victims and how tragic the story was of what happened to them. So overall, those are my feelings. Now let's get into why I think this is so strong, and let's kind of jump into the series a bit more. Episode begins with Jeffrey Dahmer getting caught. It's a really powerful first episode. If I did not know what had happened to the potential victim that we saw in this case, I would have been freaking out. But we got to see the whole story. It's a very good, tense episode. Those moments where he's like making him watch The Exorcist with the knife stuff, and then when he's having the boy is having to like kind of seduce him to get himself out of it. It's the strategy a lot of sex workers have to do, where they have to play into the fantasy to keep themselves safe. It's so good. This episode did such a good job of depicting what these victims had to go through, but the rescue of this one, and how Miss Glenda, played by Niecy Nash next door, was always trying to complain about the smell, about a young 14-year-old boy that she had reported earlier, but they didn't care because those two cops were trash. We talk about that in the next episode as well. Yeah, I really like this first episode, and then it continues to grow, though like episode 2, 3, and 4 are a lot of backstory. It's a lot of, well, here's him doing that National Honor Society stuff, the Dahmer thing where he makes fun of people with special needs, a lot of that stuff that we've seen in common places, especially if you've recently seen My Friend Dahmer, which was, again, a very interesting perspective written by a kid who went to school with Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, I like that stuff. We start seeing the first hitchhiker. That episode is where things started coming into focus of how we would focus on the victims and how they would become centerpieces of the episodes. Then we move forward in the episodes to his next victim. This is when he's in the bathhouses and kind of figuring his sexuality out. I love that this show specifically did not go, well, if he would have just been gay, maybe everything would have been good. No, he says it to the cops that arrest him, and this is like documented, that he was just like, I was born this way. This was just how it was always going to unfold. I love that this show specifically does not make a sympathetic portrayal of Dahmer. With Evan Peters here, it's easy to do. He's Evan Peters. Oh my God, Tate from, oh my God, he's so cool. No, not in this episode. Not in this series. Not at all in the 10 episodes. I love that. Now, the Lionel character, the dad, they definitely try to make him a bit more sympathetic. But yeah, I was really, really engaged through each episode. Then those last 3 episodes came with Miss Glenda, like organizing the memorial service, trying to get the victims together, explaining how long she's been trying to get this done. Oh my goodness, this is where it's good. The trial episode where we're like gearing up for all of it and we're hearing more of the backstory with the victims. I loved all of that. Finding out the deep-rooted mental illness that Jeffrey had as well. This is all those really strong moments. These little moments really come together, focusing on the victims. Now, it becomes pretty hectic to keep up with all like 17, I think, of them. So they start kind of fast-forwarding some of the victims, not really giving them the showcase. But in a lot of ways, it's kind of what Jeffrey was doing. He was kind of, you know, the one that he did in 1978, I believe, when he was a young kid, to where he was doing in like 87 through 91. Those get muddy. Like, you know, the first kill gets its moment, and then that last victim really gets their moment. Then the young 14-year-old boy that the cops were like, no, that's his lover, and I'm like, how are y'all that negligent? But it's the fact that it was young brown and black boys that the police did not care about. It's the fact that it was a homosexual relationship that they kind of just brushed off a lot of evil and gross things that were pretty obvious, but they were just like, well, that's the gays, they're gross and evil. It's sad, but again, none of this is sad because of Jeffrey. It's sad because of the system. I mean, he was on parole. Like, just if they would have took his name, they would have seen it. Just the layers of this, you know, the layers of the trial even, and how just it was twisted. All of this was, I'm honestly kind of happy that this did not happen post O.J. Simpson, which was something else Ryan Murphy dived into, where the media really started putting attention on trials like this. I am so happy that it was not that. Like, it was like Manson and then O.J. Stuff in the middle was trial, and we have, you know, it all happened and stuff. But the way Jeffrey's kind of got brushed over, thankfully, in the mass media cycle that it was, it's refreshing because, I don't know, I think there would have been a bigger rise of Jeffrey as a victim and how sad he was, but he was never a victim, especially what would happen to him in prison after his arrest. I'm sorry, I'm going to be one of those people. Karma. That's karma. Yes, the person who attacked and ended up eventually killing Jeffrey Dahmer in prison is a murderer. oh, that's sad. Yeah, you are a murderer, but I don't know, karma. I just could not wrap my head around the sympathy that I've always kind of seen around the Jeffrey Dahmer character, and that this show really did remove it. I may not be in agreement with everyone about that, but I definitely think they made Jeffrey pathetic, unsympathetic, and gross, and really spotlighted all the people he hurt, and that's what makes this so strong. We've had things like American Crime Story, American Horror Story, The Politician, Hollywood. There's like a lot of Ryan Murphy content out there with him and Brad Falchuk and Janet Mock now. We have Pose. Oh my god, there is so much good Ryan Murphy content out there. But there's a lot of meh. I'm looking at you, American Horror Story double feature. I'm looking at you, American Horror Stories. A lot of meh out there. I have not been as affected by a Ryan Murphy project in quite a long time. I mean, I'm going back to like first season of American Crime Story with the O.J. Simpson stuff. I loved that, and I thought this was capturing that element, a little less procedural. I like the non-linear storytelling. I like the format of this. This really does feel like Ryan Murphy and the whole production team was really trying something different here, really trying to focus their energy. If American Horror Story Season 11 is not that great, I can tell you why now, because they put all their Ryan Murphy, let's see, into this goddamn show, because it was really that good. It's impressive. It's impactful. It has a lot to say. That's what I think I like about this most. There is a point of view, something to say. Like with impeachment, what was the point? Like, Bill Clinton was bad? I get it. Monica Lewinsky was portrayed not great? I get it. Yeah, sure. Hollywood, this fantasy of what he wanted the 50s to be like. A lot of this, I get it. Like, Pose had a point. Pose had a point of view, but I honestly say that's a lot of Miss Janet Mock over there really pushing that show in that direction. With this show, with Monster, with the Jeffrey Dahmer story, I can feel what they're trying to say, spotlighting the victims, especially all the victims of color. This was exactly what I wanted from this show. It's still horror exploitation. You get to see Evan Peters naked. There's gore, there's shocks, there's twists and turns, but there's still a point. We're still delivering a message. Not that the message is first. I think entertainment is a big part of this. We're trying to watch a show and enjoy it, but there is a message. There is a point of view. There is something to say with this. That's why this is so strong. That's why, to me, this is the best Ryan Murphy production we've had in a bit. I want to see more like this. I want to see the tragicness of this, the heartfeltness, the emotion, the almost kind of uplifting moments that they tried. There was a lot of elements in this. Usually, I'd say Ryan Murphy loves his trauma porn. He likes it. It's there. I'm just stating the facts. But this was trauma porn in a way, but it was also so positive and putting spotlights on people that normally did not get the spotlight. We've seen the white boy Jeffrey Dahmer story 1,000 times, inspired by just straight up documentaries, movies starring Jeremy Renner, which were okay. I haven't seen that in like a decade, so who knows. But yeah, overall, I'm just happy that they took this review, took this thing, and Netflix gave them the chance to do this. They did not seem to hold them back. They seemed to just let them to create the story that they needed to, and I appreciate that, and I honestly think that that's why it's so strong. It's that strong, it's that good, and it really comes with that high of a recommendation for me. With all 10 episodes of Dahmer, Monster, a Jeffrey Dahmer story available on Netflix, I highly recommend it. The first 2 episodes are really strong, and then those last couple ones, I really pick back up into it. The middle is good. The middle's there. It exists. It needs to happen to flesh out the rest of the stories and to flesh out what we saw in the intro. But overall, I do think this is worth the watch. Netflix, Ryan Murphy Productions, and everyone involved, a round of applause. I can even see Niecy, Nash, and Evan Peters making it to the Emmys in the Best Limited Series category. There is something to do with this show. I hope it gets the recognition, and I hope people get to see it. I know we're all like waiting for American Horror Story Season 11, but this is something good in the middle. In the meantime, this was much more fulfilling than American Horror Stories, and probably going to be better than this new season of American Horror Story. I just like this story. I was not expecting to like Dahmer as much as I did. Again, the queer story that we've seen, the woe is me, all of that has been done before. So I'm happy that they went this route and made it this impactful. All right, everyone, subscribe to my channel because I make videos like this every single week. Give me a thumbs up and make sure you guys comment down below. All right, everyone, let's talk about Dahmer, Evan Peters, and Ryan Murphy Productions down there.